As he continued to explore Eazy's last weeks in the hospital, I've been looking into a different theory surrounding his death. There have been theories and rumors for years that the government may have been involved in the death of many rappers. But to hear Eazy himself in the very last interview he gave talk about this.
Did the FBI ever warn you, or did they just warn like the first day in the church?
The FBI didn't.
Makes me think that this is something we need to look into much further. To get to the bottom of this, I really need someone with actual insider knowledge of the FBI, especially its West Coast operations during the 80s and early 90s. Patrick Connolly is a retired special agent who was active during the years NWA and Eazy-E were prominent. This is some of the stuff that I've been reading over the last few months. So I'm curious if you could help me unpack some of this stuff. He's agreed to speak with me today and answer any questions he can. This first stuff here we've got deals with some of the West Coast clans, a group called the Fourth Reich.
Right.
The alleged hit included the rap musician Eazy-E.
They wanted to start a race war.
So who wanted to? The skinheads?
I was one person that people probably would care about if something was to happen to them.
In looking at this case and looking at some of the information behind it, the listing of African American celebrities or people on their list of hit list,
Right.
I really don't read a whole lot into that as far as the veracity of their ability to do anything on a list. There would have to been evidence to show overt acts other than just making a list of no celebrities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so basically what I'm hearing is that the FBI at the time didn't necessarily think it was something that they needed to alert even some of the people on the list about, because there was some conversations and we were told that he was never made aware. So
that's a great question. I wasn't involved with this case at the time, but I do know that there's mandated reporting requirements for anybody who is a potential targeted victim of any case. But that has to be based on some level of fact. There's a lot of people that write things out about him. So he was not made aware. The agents working this case did not feel it was a threat.
From my understanding, they had him on that hit list, he being Eric Wright, Eazy-E, because of some of the things that he was saying, obviously, because of his song, The Police, but also getting people to be aware of things that were going on.
Everything you hear on my records is true. It either happened or it could happen.
To your knowledge, was there also some eyes on Eazy-E by the FBI? They had them on a targeted list.
Are you the feds? You watching us, huh?
And there are a lot of theories surrounding artists and crime organizations like the FBI that you were a part of. Can you speak to that?
As far as my first-hand knowledge of any open or active investigation targeting Mr. Wright, I'm not aware of that. If there was a case opened up, there has to be some underlying conditions that need to be met for that case to be initiated. You can't just start looking at someone because they come out with an anti-police video. This doesn't happen. There's thousands of cases that come into the FBI weekly. Believe me, there's too much work out there that needs to be done on criminal acts that have already occurred. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
It has never happened anything that I've ever seen.
Because I'm sure you are aware of just over the years things that have been reported that have created that type of mistrust between the black community and
I think, unfortunately, what we're doing, right here, the media, I think sometimes things are presented in a way that maybe takes one thread of a thing and they present a what-if story, and those things sometimes take a life of their own. And I just don't see it as far as the reality of what happens certainly with the FBI. The standard for the street agents to work a case is I think pretty well followed.
Demand is there. We've got the Shiva Army. Demand is growing. You can see that as evidenced by trends.google.com.
Jasmine, what's going on? Where we at? So I caught up with this ex-FBI agent. He just felt like if there was a true investigation into Eazy-E, there would just be a lot more evidence to prove it. There's so much red tape, so many levels of people that would have been involved. He had never heard about it, so he didn't think that there was any truth to the matter that the government was targeting Eric. I feel comfortable moving on from the government theory and focusing in on what we all can agree still remains the greatest mystery. What went on in Eazy's last weeks at the hospital?
We've been reaching out to honestly everyone, but it just seems like they're avoiding this. The crazy part is, only people that's been willing to talk about the hospital are the people that were kept in the hospital.
Okay, so here's my question. You guys have been reaching out to all the people that you do know, but what about all the people that you don't know? I mean, we have hundreds of court documents with tons of different names.
Few people know that there were multiple lawsuits filed after Eazy-E's passing.
Names are on there, names are in there. We need to just go through that stuff to find people. Who else can we find? Who else can we talk to? If their name is in the court documents,
They were significant in some way. Yeah, got it. I'm on it. In some of these lawsuits, including one brought by the mothers of some of Eazy's children, various eyewitnesses were called to testify. Perhaps one of those people might have witnessed other things unrelated to those lawsuits that would help us answer our questions about Eazy's death. Could Eazy-E have shared concerns with them? Could they help answer the question why he may have wanted help from his friend Toker to leave the hospital? After looking through Eazy's last will and testament, there's one name that caught my eye. On the last page beneath Eazy's signature and those of his attorneys is another handwritten signature. Reverend Kenneth Flowers.
It was ranking at number 11 when I was looking at it. I don't know what it's going to be by the time this video is done because
I decided to reach out to Reverend Flowers, and I'm hoping as a man of the cloth, I can appeal to him on behalf of a daughter with unanswered questions about the father she lost too soon.
hi, Dr. Flowers. I'm Jasmine.
And after a brief conversation, I'm happy to report he's agreed to talk.
You're going to see a lot of
Well, hello, Reverend Flowers.
Hello, Eazy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
You know, honestly, I really just want to hear your own personal memories with my dad and just your experiences with the time that you were around him.
Yeah. Well, actually, to be very truthful, I only spent one day with him.
Okay.
I was a pastor of Messiah Baptist Church in Los Angeles. I was friends with Ron Sweeney, and he was your dad's attorney. And I get a phone call from Ron Sweeney, and he says, Pastor Flowers, I need you to come by the hospital. And he got a big celebrity. I said, okay. Who was the celebrity? He said, you ever heard of Eazy-E? I said, yeah, I know Eazy-E. He said he's debating on whether or not he wants to get married. He's right now 50-50. And if he decides to get married, can you do the wedding ceremony? So I said, okay.
Hearing Reverend Flowers talk about my father in the hospital, I am truly grateful. However, when it comes to both the marriage and the will, you know, it's hard for me at the same time.
When I got to the hospital, there was another minister there also. I guess because I was late getting there, they said we weren't sure if you were going to make it or not. So this other pastor of the ceremony, but can you stay and witness it? And I said, sure, no problem. Then I stood at the foot of the bed to witness the marriage ceremony.
Oh, you were in the ceremony?
Quadrillion is absurd.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of coins that are out there.
Not a lot of people know that my father married and drafted a will just days before his death. Do you remember who was in there when they did the ceremony?
I can't recall. I cannot say for sure, but there were other people in the room.
Okay.
And then after the ceremony, they asked me if I would stay and witness your dad signing his will.
And people also don't know that a woman who married my dad ended up getting almost his entire multi-million-dollar estate, but his kids got next to nothing.
And he was lying in the bed with his will in his hand, and they asked him to initial every page, and I stood there to witness to make sure that he was coherent. But he was very calm, cool, and was very sure what he was doing. He then signed the will.
And just like my father's death, I still have so many questions about that.
And then they asked this of a Reverend Flowers, can you also sign the will since you have witnessed everything? So I said, sure, no problem.
Because of this will, we don't make any decisions. We don't have any ownership. We don't see any of the proceeds from anything. We have no parts in anything. It's very confusing. My father was gone within such a short period of time. It makes no sense.
It's clear for Evie these questions too deserve investigating.
He didn't look sick.
But yet the doctors out in the hallway tell you this man's dying.
I don't believe any of this story.
After I signed the will, then your dad wanted to spend some private time with me as a pastor.
Right now, we're talking to Reverend Kenneth Flowers. He testified in court after my father's death that he was present for the signing of his will and his deathbed marriage.
And I asked him if he believed in the Lord Jesus Christ, and he said he did. I anointed him with oil, and I had prayer with him.
There have been so many questions surrounding my father's time in the hospital. He was married and drafted a will just days before his death. Talking to somebody who was actually there is honestly a huge break for us.
And as I was leaving the hospital, I ran into my primary doctor.
founder and chairman
He said,
of
"Brad, what are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And I said, "I came to see a young man." And he said, "Who are you visiting?" And when I told him Eric, he said, "That's my patient. That's my." I said, "Really?" He was your dad, the doctor.
William Young.
Brad, he said, he's having a procedure in the morning. He said, "I need you to pray for him." He said, "Because it can go either way." Which shocked me because your dad was talking like nothing was wrong. He didn't look sick. He never told me what the procedure was. He never told me his sickness. He just said, "Pray for him." So I said, "No problem, Doc, I'll pray for him."
So during this journey, because this has been a long while, one thing I've learned is 2 of the lawsuits against the estate had said there's no way that he was coherent enough to sign a will, get married, all these things. His business associate, Michael Klein, has said it.
Michael Klein was fighting for 50% ownership of Ruthless Records, and he stated in his lawsuit that when the marriage took place and the will was drafted, Eric was in a debilitated state, he was under medication, and he was forced to sign documentation by undue influence.
And that resonates with me because it doesn't make sense of what went down. But then you're saying he looked healthy and was talking and all kind of stuff to you, but I'm just a little